name is Suzanne van Doren. I'm a Dutch blogger and psychologist. I blog on www.mindfunda.com. If you go visit my website, you can register for my email newsletter, and it gives you the opportunity to download my book about mutual dreaming. And it's filled with extraordinary experiences that I did while I did a research about mutual dreaming. It's a very, very interesting ebook. So please register for my newsletter and grab yourself that ebook. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'll be interviewing lots of interesting people. And today I'm talking with Bart Koet, who edited the book about dreams and duality. Hello, Bart Koet.
Hello, Suzanne.
Would you be so kind to introduce yourself?
I'm a theologian,
Yeah.
and within that field, I'm even a scriptural scholar. So I wrote, or I'm studying about scriptures. So not only about scriptures, but in fact, I'm Professor New Testament of the Tilburg School of Theology. That's a faculty in the Netherlands. And I teach New Testament, and I'm also professor of early Christian literature. But I was not always a professor. I was also a chaplain in the prison. A long time ago, I was for 15 years. I combined working at the university and being a chaplain in the prison. And I was a young scholar, young chaplain. And the second man who came into my room. So I started to work as a chaplain in a huge prison in the Netherlands, one of the biggest one, also one of the most difficult one. And the second man came to my room. He was from the Middle East somewhere, and he told his story. He killed his wife, a very nice man. And at the end of our meeting, he said to me, listen, in my tradition, we tell our dream to our chaplains. Now you are my chaplain, and thus I will tell my dream to you. And I just wrote a dissertation about interpretation of scripture in the Bible. And I knew that in those days, so in first century in Judaism and Christianity, when you were a wise person, you could interpret scripture, or for instance the Holy Scripture of the Jews, but also the famous scriptures of the Greeks, so as like the poems from poems and stories. But you could do that, but you can also interpret dreams, because dreams and, for instance, Bible were considered to be wisdom. And if you had the skill to deal with those stories, that was an indication of a certain wisdom. And I knew I had written about scripture, but I knew that interpreted scripture was part of interpreted scripture, and I was just an official scripture interpreter. So I thought, now I have not only I can, but I have to work with that fellow and his dreams. So I started to work as a prison chaplain, to work with inmates, together with them, listening to their dreams. And as a scholar, I was listening to the dream stories in scripture, in the Talmud, which is a very beautiful source of dream stories, but also in classical literature.
Thank you. It's very interesting.
Why?
Because the book, Dreams and Spirituality, gives us a sneak peek into other religions.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen very often. The book is divided into 3 parts, and you have been an editor of the Dreams and Spirituality. And those 3 parts, they are so well chosen. multidisciplinary points of departure, dreams and religion, empirical data, theory and reflections. Barbara has written a chapter, another editor of the book has written a chapter about that. So presumably, I haven't interviewed her yet, she's going to tell about that part of the book. And the third part, dreams and practice of pastoral care. And Anne has told us something about the last part of the book, Out of the Mouth of Babes. So I would like to ask you, you contribute to all three parts of the book, but would you be so kind to tell us something about the first part of the book, Dreams and Revelations, Food for Theological and Philosophical Thought?
Yeah, of course I would like to do that, but still I want to say also about the other two articles. So my last article is very funny because in that article I write about my own dreams as a chaplain in the prison, which is very funny because there you can find a combination listening to the dreams of inmates, but also to my own dreams, and it gives some insight in prison life in the Netherlands, but also how you can deal it. And the second part I wrote about the rabbinic dream book. So in the Talmud, there is a beautiful section about the rabbinic dream world, and the Jewish scholars wrote as well, reflected about the phenomenon of dreams, and that's very nice ideas of dreams. And I'm sure that Freud, although he denies it, learned a lot from it. And that's so it's related to the first chapter, where I write about biblical and philosophical ideas about dreaming. So in quite a lot of religious traditions, nearly in all of them, there are reflections about what dreams are. And not only what dreams are, also dream narratives are used to focus the narrative. So for instance, in classical tradition, there were always dream stories about the emperors. Whether they were dreamt or not, it's a way of saying, listen, this man is very important because already in his youth there were people dreaming about him. Now, the important question for religious traditions is this dream divine revelation? So are they coming from God? Scholars who are writing about dreams, for instance, my friend Van der Kastel, he just said, yeah, in the past people believed that dreams are coming from God. Bullshit, not at all true. So they were as clever as we are. Van der Kastel laughed it when I said it to him. He found it very interesting. Most scholars don't think about religion. They just say it's bullshit. While of course people in the past, they were not stupid. So that's what I call the biblical dream dilemma. In scripture you can find two different ideas about dreaming. For instance, one is that you dream a lot when you work a lot. Just like what Freud said. And then once upon in a lifetime, you have special dreams, the big dreams. Yeah. And in biblical times, they said, oh, that's possible, an idea, a possible divine revelation. Jung would call it later the big dream. In our book, there's a very interesting article by a Belgian Freudian fellow, and he sticks to the idea Freud is important, but in the end he says a little note. He says, yeah, listen, Freud closed the door for divine interpretation, divine revelation. And he said, possible it is better not to close the door totally. So what you can see is that again and again, people realize or feel that their dream is special. And sometimes they use the word God for it, but that's not the most important thing. They experience it itself as a little bit bigger than they are. So and I call that the dream dilemma. So that you always ask, is this dream bigger than I am? And most of the dreams tell you something about what's happening in your life. Yeah? And that's wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some dreams are a little bit more important. So what I explain in the first chapter is a little bit theoretical thinking in how it was in the scripture, but also in the philosophical tradition. So there's a lot of literature from Plato to Sartre and Heidegger, a lot of thinking about what's fundamental for a dream. And an American scholar, he wrote a beautiful article last year about that dreams are metaconceptual. So
which scholar? Do you have the name?
You can find it in
Okay.
Jem Barnes is his name.
Yeah.
So I think that some people from the philosophy say, in fact, dreams are more real than reality, because after a dream you can define it as a dream, but you will never say this is reality after reality.
Yeah, I love the there sometimes in dreams there is another wisdom present that sometimes doesn't even manifest, but you feel that wisdom. And I think that that's a kind of spiritual awareness that is part of some dreams and maybe part of all dreams.
So in biblical times, they wouldn't say that it's in all dreams. They would say some of the dreams are more prophetic than other dreams.
Yeah.
And not only in
I'm not sure if
and not only in biblical tradition or rabbinic tradition, but quite clearly also, for instance, in Islamic tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They say that only one of 40 dreams is prophetic. And the suggestion it is not so often. Mm-hmm. And in the Talmud it is said only one of 60 dreams is prophetic, which is of course the same.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have been the editor of Dreams to Spirituality, and what is, in your opinion, the added value of the book Dreams and Spirituality?
So, if you look to the second title, it is a handbook for ministry, spiritual direction, and counseling. You can see that in ministry and spiritual counseling, also in coaching. So take it a little bit broader. Quite often people do not use dreams as a tool to learn something about yourself. And this handbook wants ministers, coaches, spiritual direction, help them with thinking about dreams and give them some tools for dealing with it. Not enough, and of course it is not really a handbook. It is more a collection of articles together in the same direction. And it's very funny because it is very intercultural. It's very interreligious. It's very interdisciplinary, and it's very international. So you have a beautiful article about how nowadays in Egypt, in an Islamic context, dreams are dealt with. Yeah? But there's also an article of a priest who was spiritual director at the Pontifical Irish Seminary in Rome, who used dreams to guide his students. So it's really quite a lot of different backgrounds, and that makes the book interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also important for a world where people are inclined not to listen to people who are different from them. And now they have, the book is not also that they have to listen to other cultures, but possibly it's also wise to learn to listen to your own dreams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the interview. Is there something you would like to add? A question I hadn't asked that you will think really would
Listen,
be
it's always.
interested?
I just studies are not, so dreams are not only important nowadays, but I have also written some nice books. For this one is about dreams as divine communication in Christianity from Hermas to Aquinas. So together with a lot of scholars from the Netherlands, this is a collection of articles of all kinds of different sources in Christianity which dealt with dreams. And normally in theology, writers do not give enough attention to the dream narratives in those stories, which are important. And this is, for instance, a very nice book about dreaming in Christianity and Islam. I wrote 2 articles in it, but it's edited in the United States, and which is very interesting because of here Christianity and Islam are discussing the same theme, which is very interesting.
Okay, well, thank you for shining your light on dreams and spirituality, and thank you for putting this book out on the market because I think there's a lot of people really wanting to read it. Goodbye.
Bye.